Hello, welcome back to the James Ramblin' Reviews. I'm actually really surprised by how much I ended up enjoying this season of TV as I rewatched it and finished the last three episodes of it last night because today we are continuing the marathon to Stranger Things Season 5 with the rewatch-a-thon, if you want to call it that, where we're talking about Stranger Things Season 2, arguably one of the most controversial seasons of the show, and so we'll get into how I feel about it, what I'd give out of 10. There will be a few spoilers and things like that along the way. But just for a bit of context, last week I did a video about Stranger Things Season 1. I absolutely still enjoyed that season of TV, one of the best seasons of TV. Just enjoyed it in general, so I'll link that down below. And just for a bit of context, this is my second time watching Season 2. The first time I watched it, I wasn't a big fan of it. And so coming back to the show and watching it all over again, there was something about it that just drew me to it. But before we get into all of that, I will give you a bit of a plot summary here, a bit of an idea of what it's about. So it takes place like a year after, the first season, where that was 1983. This is 1984. It's actually set during Halloween. Like the first episode, you have like October 1984. So yeah, it's absolutely set during Halloween and stuff like that. And this is coming off of when we started to see that Will escaped the Upside Down. So it's all of that where you've got Will and he's experiencing everything. He's got a bit of PTSD going on. It's like, oh no, he's feeling every emotion. There's like times where he has these episodes, and it's like there's monsters in his head, and he's drawing and he's going crazy, and his brain is mushed all together. Like there's all of that going on here. You've got like Maxine Mayfield. They call her Mad Max in the first episode. So you've got her, you've got Billy, you've got the usual cast. You've got like Dustin, Steve, Lucas, 11, all like that. And here you've got Hopper. There is a lot more going on in season two. But what I'm going to say is I'm actually surprised to say that this is a lot better than I remember it, because the first time I watched it, like I said, just wasn't a big fan of it. And the first thing that drew me to this, it's just the entertainment value was just really good for me. It was an entertaining watch. However, there is a couple of times where it isn't the most perfect show. But what really drew me to it is I don't know how I remembered it, but I might have just not connected to the story as much in the first time I watched it. But this time around, I actually really connected to it because we got to learn a little bit more about the Upside Down. While it was mysterious in season one, because it's season two, they started to expand everything. And I just think the new characters, they add a new perspective to everything going on, because Maxine is like unsure about what's going on. She doesn't know a lot about 11 and the Upside Down. And then when she starts to see that the Demodog starts appearing, or it starts off as this wee little thing in their school, and it turns into this big monster, and the monster actually eats Dustin's cat. So things just start to ramp up. There's a lot more high stakes than I remember. There's a lot more actual things to get invested in here. There's a lot of entertaining moments with these characters. You've kind of got this balance of a really dramatic, horrific storyline with some very comedic fun as well. So I will say all of that, and so there's definitely all of that where I did start to enjoy it all. But what I will say is there is a few things in the season that I'm still kind of, peeved off about. I'm just not really the biggest fan of. And the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that, you've got that whole episode where they try to pretty much put a filler arc inside of this season where 11 goes after her sister. It just doesn't add to see when you have there's like this really tense moment in like episode 6, and there's that tense moment where all of that stuff happens, and it cuts to this where it's just got 11 going after her sister. It's just really silly, and then they go into this guy's house and they go crazy, and all of that stuff is just not great. I don't know why they even decided to do all of that, and it just dives too deeply into the backstory of 11 and all that. So it wasn't like the greatest episode. It was okay, but compared to the rest of the season, it's just they could have just cut that out, and you wouldn't have had anything changed because of it. So there is all of that, and I gotta admit that the episode 8 is really good still. I've actually pretty enjoyed that kind of episode where you've got like Bob. I forgot to mention that you've got Sean Astin in the season, where he plays this like kind of father figure to Will, all the other characters and things, and he's trying to help everybody, and he's a really endearing, fun character. And what happens to him in episode 8 is he actually gets killed by the Demodogs, and it still is a really tragic moment. when you see Hopper trying to help him, and then you've got the doctor guy trying to help him and all of that. Like, that's really cool how they're trying to help him, but then something happens to him, and it's pretty sad. Like, it's pretty sad what happens to him. But then it's really cool how the storyline just keeps unraveling and everything keeps coming to a certain. There's actually a payoff in the season, and I didn't realize that the first time I watched. Like, there is actually a payoff in this season where it clearly is leading to the Mind Flayer in season 3, and it was kind of teased throughout the season that they were going to do the Mind Flayer storyline, but it's going to happen in season 3. And I do like also the whole dance, the whole dance section where Mike and Eleven are dancing, they figure it out together. It's such a nice moment. There's just a lot of nice moments in this season. There was a lot of entertaining moments, and how it went from like how they called her Mad Max and how she was so good at the arcade thing, and then it turns into this whole thing where she's getting really enthralled with this whole experience. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but Steve's character arc just continues to blow my mind and just continues to be a really good thing to watch when you watch it again, because I think Steve is one of the best written characters in the show, because he goes from that guy that was the bully, and he becomes misunderstood, and then he becomes the guy that's really good. And towards the end of season 1, he was like the guy that was like, you know what, I'm going to help everybody and give everybody what they want. And then there's like this moment in one of the episodes in season 2 where you've got Steve, hanging around with Dustin, and he wants to help everybody. And how there's this one scene where we've got Max scene and all that. They're inside the bus, and then he's outside going after these monsters, and it's just awesome. So there's a lot of moments like that where I was just kind of blown away with how much I enjoyed season 2. So if I was to rate it out of 10, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10, and that is because of episode 7 and a couple of things. The whole thing with Barb, and how there's a couple of things where they try to take away the mystery and reveal too much, but then there's other times where, oh man, I was really surprised with how much I was enjoying myself, because they just kind of found a way to continue the storyline and make it more interesting, bringing in new characters and expanding the universe. So that is my review of Stranger Things Season 2. And stay tuned for more reviews like this one, because it's been a blast reviewing this. And I'll see you on the other side of the upside down. Bye.